Okay, here we are. I wrote another story script, a bunch of things good to know about subwoofers. Now in this particular video, we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to talk about power in a subwoofer because, I mean, that is the biggest challenge for subwoofers today. There's a whole list of things that we're going to cover. And if you don't watch it now, that's okay. You know, I appreciate it. Do the live thing. I like that. But you can also watch it later on. And just like my last video I did, I went back and I edited it. So this way, any part where I kind of like drifted off and did something else, talk about something else, I feel a little blah, blah. And I listed out all the things we're talking about. So here we are. What do we have? It's like Goldilocks here. We've got a small, medium, and large subwoofer. We've got a 12-inch S12. We've got an actual TS315S from Alto. So again, Harbinger, Alto, Harbinger. And this is the V2318S. Now, let's start off with size. When and how do you decide size? It all comes down to, well, convenience, ease of use, portability. There's so many things that define size. Normally, if you're going to be DJing and you're going out and you're doing it for money, not for fun or for free, you're going to want to get yourself into some 18s, at minimum 2 15s. And why is that? It all comes down to dB. And we're going to be covering dB in this video. It's more important than wattage, even though it's like, ooh, big numbers. That's only part of the puzzle. The second part is going to be how big the space is. And the third part is going to be how many dBs can your subwoofer really handle and how many people are in front of you. But size is very important. If I'm not using it for house music or reggae or any type of hip hop or anything like that, any type of music that's got a lot of bass driven in it, or in terms you want a lot of bass driven into it, then you can get away with smaller ones. Now, it's important, not all music has bass in it. If you play stuff from the 70s and 80s and 90s, it starts to roll in. The greatest hit stuff, you're not going to get a ton of bass because it wasn't recorded in. And if you're setting up a system for a live band, a live show, if you're not setting it up for a DJ, you know, then you're probably going to be looking for bass to put into the subwoofer. That's very important. But that being said, I don't think anybody's system is complete unless they have a subwoofer. A lot of times, my suggestion will be, if you're using it for a garage band setup, if you're using it for a karaoke setup, if you're using it for a rec room, I'd start off with one top and one subwoofer just so you can maximize it. If you are buying this for home, because I have so many customers that talk about karaoke and home band use and that sort of thing, partying at home, I get a 15 or a couple of 12s. My choice in this rec room, in this actual now studio space, is to use the actual line arrays that I have at the end because they have 12-inch subs on the bottom of them. They put out a perfect amount of bass, and that bass is very tight and very, good for close proximity. Very important. But size, very big. When you look at it and we measure the actual surface area of a speaker, because if we said all these speakers had the same amount of power energy coming off the front, which they don't, and we just used it as how much surface area, because that would tell me how many subs I need for a size of a room. If I look at a 12-inch, there's only 6 inches difference between the 12 and the 18. And then, of course, well, we know that there's only 3 inches difference going into the middle one here. But if we actually look at it as per size, so if we look, and you'll get there with the numbers, 12-inch square inches, I did the math, used pi and everything. It's 113 square inches for a 12-inch sub. Then the 15 has 176, so that 3 inches adds an awful lot, right? We're up to 176 square inches. And then on the 18, this is like buying an extra large pizza here. We're at 254 square inches on an 18. So let's put that into perspective. If I had 2 18-inch subwoofers at a show, I would need to have 3 15s to cover the same amount of volume, space that I'm generating. So how much surface area am I pushing in that room versus how much surface area I'm pushing in the room? 2 of these, the math tells me I would need 3. And if I'm going with the 12, I would need 4. So I would go from 2 of these all the way to 4 of those. So remember, if volume is your thing, if you want to keep it loud and you're going to be playing for a lot of people, 150, 250 people, and you're using a point source speaker like this, there's going to be limits, right? That's why companies build like generally 3 series of speakers, right? They have their let's get going. It's almost like the first one, but you know, we've got 50% more power. And this one's pretty big, great for live bands, and it's at least twice the power as the first one. Tiering, right? Getting more and more powerful. That's why they do that. And at that point, you're buying multiple speakers, or you have to switch over to a complete line array setup to make it even louder. But for most of us, ta-da, that's what we're looking at. So again, size, you have to decide. Can I schlep this around? Can I pick up this 75 to 100 pound subwoofer, depending on the model you get? Or do I need to take 2 of these because they're much easier to carry around? I'll be honest, I put these 2 guys on wheels. Well, this came with wheels. I just repositioned them because I don't like picking them up anymore. But I do believe they're absolutely a necessity. So I'm not going to say, oh, I don't take subs with me anymore because, you know, I don't need them anymore. The real excuse is I don't take subs with me anymore because I'm tired of picking them up. So sub like this will still fit in the back of your van, your minivan, your truck, or your Honda Civic, if that's what you got to squeeze it into. I don't know how many. Okay, I've gotten 2 of these inside a Honda Civic for customers in the past, but you know, take them out of the box. They'll fit in the back seat. So let's get to the next thing, power. Why do we have power next? Power, we're working towards dB. For us to be able to drive a dB level, which is very important, we're going to get to that too. dB level is going to be how loud it's going to be in the room. And the only way we can sustain that volume of dB, loudness, is by having enough subwoofers and also by having enough power. Today, because these all run on D-class power amps and they're designed so well, there's digital control panels and all that kind of stuff, where in the old days, I kid you not, you'd have like, you know, no subs, you'd have like, you know, big giant speakers, I mean monsters, and you'd have them run through amps and you'd have to get power from wherever the stove was plugged into in a hall. You'd get that, or they'd have to set you up independent, dedicated lines so this way you can actually get power. Not like that anymore. Today you can run 4 subs, 4 tops, all your equipment, your light show if they're all LED, all off of 1 breaker, and it works no problem. So power is our friend. We want to have as much as possible. And the reason why this has a peak power performance, so it's 2400, is very important because they are trying to achieve a certain level of dB. They are trying to achieve a full 134 dB at 1 meter, which is how like all these companies like 1 meter. And 1 meter is important because it gives you a ratio of how far away you can get. Now, first of all, I'm never going to run this at 100%. I'm never going to get 134 dBs out of it. It's not a brand thing. It's, you don't want to, it's like driving around in your car with the gas pedal to the floor. You just ain't going to do it. I mean, yeah, okay. Test it on the track and it goes, you know, 165 miles an hour. You're not driving around town, or you're not driving back and forth to work at 165 miles an hour. But if you have to pass somebody, boom, you're going 80 and no problem, no time at all. Same thing applies here. I'm going to want to run these things at about 75%, thereabouts, which is okay because 75% will probably generate, it'll probably generate roughly 100 dB. That's a magic number. 99 and 100. If you're in North America or in Europe or Australia, and everybody, you have to look exactly, but normally if there are people that inspect halls and concerts and venues and bars, stuff like that, for noise level, which you'd be surprised, almost everywhere does it, they're the dB police. They come in and they're trying to turn your party down because you're excessively too loud. So normally, let's say here in North America, the magic number is either 99 or 100. And I know it's 99 in the UK, if I'm not mistaken there. This is important because from the first person who's in front of the speaker, that's as loud as you can be, legally speaking. You can play it louder than that. That's no problem. I've gotten speakers up to 110, 120, but those days are behind me because that's an awful lot of volume. They say concerts are running at 120, which is why they've turned them down. If you go to a concert today, you'll be pretty hard pressed to find a concert running at 120 dBs. You may have noise around you that's that loud, but the actual concert itself, with the line arrays today, they're running at around 100. Now, math. It all comes down to math. Now, the rule is the science rules. This is one of those rare times that rules apply, but then it's not in the real world. dB rule is that for every time you double the distance in front of the speaker of a point source setup, that's a regular speaker setup like this guy, you're going to be dropping, you're going to lose 6 dB. And that's because speakers come out in a sphere, like in a ball. Like sound comes out here and it goes everywhere, up, down, left, right, it goes everywhere. It's leaving the planet, it's on its way out there. A sphere, a ball, there goes the sound. 6 dB, because it has to go everywhere at the same time. So that means if you were to crank this at only 75%, and that gave me roughly 100 dB right in front, 1 meter away, guess what? You're at 1 meter, you're 100 dB, you're good. Then what happens is you're going to say, I'm going to double that. I'm going to go twice as far as that. And I started writing these down here. I've got my big chart here, and I've got my at 75%. There we go. At 75%, what I would wrote down here is that I would go to a maximum of 105 at the start point, which means at 3 feet, I would be at 99 dBs. Minus 6, see 105 in the box. 1 meter away, 3 feet away, I'm now at 99 dB. Legal volume limit. Then at 6 feet, I'm at 93. 12 feet, I'm at 87. 24 feet, I'm at 81. That's the magic. You're at 24 feet away and you're at 81 dBs. If you're doing this for a wedding or for a reception, a hall, a special event, anything that'll have a dance floor in front of it, that's your magic right there. You're 24 feet away and you're still at 81 dBs. At minus 6 after that, you're at 75 dB. People can have a conversation. So that's where, tables and seating and everybody can start. Just past that. And that's fine. You're all the way. You've gone 24 feet, 81 dBs. And then it doesn't sound that loud in the back of the room anymore. It sounds comfortable. Because after that, you're at talking level at 48 feet away. That's good. That's good volume. And, the whole family that doesn't want to be part of the party, who just wants to chit chat, can go all the way to the back when the party starts at 9 o'clock and have their own time. There you go. But that means there's nobody in front of the speaker. Now, these are the rules that, you just doesn't make sense. So now we have a full room of people on the dance floor and they're absorbing sound and all that. So all of everything I just said, which are actual mathematical rules, because these are with no obstructions, that's what goes on. So you do have to make some adjustments. Now, quantity is important. I basically look at it and say, if I have a dance floor that's 24 by 24, I usually, and there's science, there's software, there's programs you can download. There's lots of guys who just like talking about their software program, which, by the way, you can download. I've downloaded it. It allows you to make fancy little charts of what's going on. It's cool. But realistically, I try, if you can, have the subs together. If you only have a dance floor that's 24 by 24. And if it gets bigger, then I'd hopefully have more subs than that. And then I would want to actually create a little bit of a round pattern. If they don't let you do that, well, then you're going to have to set them up in pairs with your top speakers to the left and right. There's no reason your subwoofers have to go on the floor. They can go on a stage or on a platform with you. No problem there. If you go to a big concert where they have the big hanging line arrays, you're only seeing half the subs up there. Sometimes they take the subs, they put them at the bottom of an array. there's a bigger box at the bottom, or sometimes now because of lack of height, if it's an indoor venue and there's a height issue there, they can't drape this thing that's like 32 feet long, they'll take the subs and put them behind. But again, you're only looking at half the subs that are there. The rest of them are all ground floor subs, and a lot of them are being used to act as a noise canceling for the stage. So this way we don't get bass on the stage. There you go. That's power. That's dB. We've also covered in this conversation placement. Placement was what we was talking about. That was number 3 on my list. And placement. You do want to not worry about height, stage, not on stage. If you're going to have 2 subs, you want to, keeping them together is going to give you more outward energy. If they're apart, that's just for ease of use, complacency. Normally, if you can handle it and you can't go deaf, if you're a DJ, put them together in front of you is better than having them apart. Because when they're apart, the amount of energy they put out is just independent to each other. You could end up with a subtle cancellation and you end up with a dead spot in the middle. If you put them together, they create a larger force of energy because it's a cumulative, and that sound's going to pulse out really well for a stage area like that. If you're at home, well, just lean to your left and right and treat them like a 3-way speaker, you'll be fine. Transporting them. I know these sounds like basics, but we're keeping it simple. Transporting them. If you're lucky enough to have something like this Harbinger here, which is very, very nice. I like this. This is really good. Notice what I'm doing with it. I put my wheels at the bottom. These speakers actually came with wheels. A part of the purchase. Use the link down below. If you're watching this during the live right now, the last time I checked, these guys were on sale at Guitar Center. You want to check it out. Order them online. And if you don't like it, get your money back when you get there. That's how I get paid. I'm just joking. You can do as you wish, but pick them up in store, but order them online. Or go to the store, talk to the guy, then order them online. So, we get a little cheese here. So here we go. This came with wheels, and the wheels are built to go into the back of the unit. Why are they used to go in the back of the unit? Transporting purposes. I put this sub into a bouncy truck, like a 5-ton truck. I want them on their back because I want that driver. I want the big magnet at the bottom and the basket. I want that all to be resting in one position on its face, which is kind of hard to do unless you put a cover on it, or on its back. On its back, the actual magnet and the core and all that's bolted straight up. It's all lined up with the actual speaker basket itself. That's the best and safest way to transport this whole rig. When you transport it standing up, though you can, if it's in your Honda Civic and you got to put it standing up, you do that. You got good suspension on it, you're fine. It's sitting on the seat anyways. If you're driving in a minivan, if it's smooth enough, no problem. If you're worried about bumps and stuff like that and you don't have any way to put it on its backside, get a big piece of sponge. If you're going on big trips, lay it down on that. I put my wheels on the bottom for a simple reason. These are just moving around 9 times out of 10. Most of their lives they move around here. I take these out occasionally for a special event, but that's about it. Normally they're here and they stay here, but I need to do this a lot. This is a showroom. I need to be able to pick them up and roll them around and do that without physically picking them up off the floor. Now, this is also a really good way to have your subs if you're in a restaurant, because then you can properly put them away when you're done. It's also very good if you have them for a church, like a house of worship, anything like that, where they're going to move around a bit. This is really good. It allows you to move them, put them away when they're not being used. If you're a school, gymnasiums or auditoriums, that sort of thing, where they're rolling around all the time, this is perfect. This is a great way to move them around. Just a suggestion, but that's the way it goes. Normally, you try and get them on their backside for long trips. Bumpy long trips, because the basket will just fall out. It's too bad because when you order them, they always ship them standing up. And in my years and years and years of selling subwoofers, I've had quite a few subwoofers that have gone from like California to here, to Ontario, to Toronto, and go through a bunch of different, shipped here, shipped there before they even got here. And the subwoofer is broken. Usually it slides out of the actual housing. The main basket comes off. I've only had a couple of them where the magnet broke off the back, but that just shows you how bad they treat this product. in shipping. So there you go. That's what's going on there. What amazing stuff are we talking about next? So that's our placement, connection. So let's talk about connecting. Unlike our tops, for some particular reason, our subwoofers just love getting like, you know, a buzzing sound, bad grounding, that sort of stuff when we connect it up. So you do want to do as much as possible to have it connected with XLR cables. I would even say that above having a balanced 1/4 inch. Now, if that's all you have, that's fine. But XLR cables are going to give you 2 advantages. One, you're not going to get this connecting short where you plug it in and the neutral and the ground cross over the positive. That just causes that big popping sound. Also remember, in the cascade of turning things on, turn on your controller, your mixer, your tops, and then your sub last. Always start with where everything started to be connected. Like I unpacked as my controller. My controller is plugged into my mixer, so the wires go from out my controller. They push the surge into the mixer, so I want to turn the controller on. Now the mixer, that's next in line. I want to turn the mixer on. Now the mixer is connected to the tops and maybe to the sub at the same time. So once I've turned the mixer on, then it's safe for me to turn on the tops into the sub. Now, if I plugged my subwoofer in first from my mixer, and then I ran off my sub to my tops, then I would turn on my sub after my mixer, and then the wires that come out of here and go up to the speakers, then that would tell me to turn on the speaker last. This way you get no popping sound, you're not going to damage anything, you're not going to have any surges of energy get thrown into your next piece of equipment. Everybody's done it. I do it all the time because I'm always plugging things in and unplugging them. But you don't want to have that big popping, cracking sound. That's the best way to go. And if you don't want to have any humming or buzzing, XLR cables, that's the way to go. Balance is always best. And now we're talking about crossover. Now, speakers have crossovers. You can buy them separate, right? You can get a 3-way controller, a rack mount system. You can do like I do, which is a mixer. And if you use a mixer, that's great because a mixer has the ability to go separate. You can use options, but you got to make sure and check the manual. If you want to use, like I always say, you can always use your monitor out. If you're not using your monitor or your aux output on your mixer for anything else, you can absolutely take advantage of that and send it off to your subwoofer. Now I'm going to do that using the monitor out, not the headphone jack. The monitor out, because then I can use a balanced connection and plug that in. All the bass is mono everywhere you go, because even if it is in stereo, it is so, this difference are so little that you don't have to worry about it. That's doing that off a mixer if you want to use the aux, but you do have to read the manual because sometimes you want to make sure that the aux, the monitor out, isn't cut at any point, because sometimes, I don't know why, they do have where they say, oh, the monitor operates at 150 hertz, not from whatever goes organically into it. So you do want to make sure of that. Also, you can run it if you have a mixer that has a dedicated subwoofer output, right? I have a mixer that does that. It's small, it's practical, because I can run that after a controller and then have better choice control of the subwoofer. It stops me from having to go to sub and reset it all the time. That's all. I get to run everything at 75% and then use that mixer to adjust the overall output volume. It's great and allows you to have quick access to the volume on the back of the speakers, and it makes it easy for me. I don't have to go back there and tweak it all the time. It allows for fine adjustments. Never listen to the people in the audience or the people at, there that are saying it's too loud, turn it down, it's too low, turn it up. You should know that going in and be able to read the room and set that volume and not listen to that one person who, should be in the back reading a book anyways. Now, something else we see all the time comes in many words. On this one here, it's this switch right here, which says phase. It's also known as a polarity. Sometimes it just says reverse or reversing. Sometimes it just says 0/180. What does that do? Well, since the actual sound of this subwoofer comes out in all directions, no matter which way you point it, you should point it this way. The general burst of sound will travel in that direction. But overall, it's like standing next to a cannon being set off. Doesn't matter which way you are, you're going to hear it. Same thing with this. When this thing's running, it's going everywhere. They're trying to control the sound and get it as much forward as possible, but you know, you're going to get a pretty good swath, especially regionally, really close to the speaker. So if you're within 8 feet of the speaker, it doesn't matter where you are, you're going to hear the bass all around it. That switch though changes the direction of the bass. So think of it as your hand in a pool of water, pushing in, pushing out, pushing in, pushing out. You're getting these ripples coming out. Now, normally, of course, when we push down, so I put power on my hand pushing it down, that creates a new ripple. Down in the middle, out it goes. Reversing that does the opposite. So whenever the power goes to push my speaker, it actually pulls it. So I'm actually creating a whoosh up on the water, but more importantly, it's backwards. So whatever's gone on, so a positive push turns into a negative pull. Push, pull, reverses itself, push and pull. That's important because if you're looking to, if you're having a bass issue when you're close to walls or the size of the room, you don't want to have your speakers next to the walls, but if they turn out to be close to a wall and you find you're having bass issues where you can't bounce it off, you can switch that over and see if that's going to improve it. If you are setting up like 10 of these, then you probably know what's going on. You're probably going to take 2 or 3 of these and then have them in reverse right next to the stage. So you set up 5 of them forward, and then you put 3 of them behind it where the stage area is, and you invert it because you create so much energy there that you're going to have too much bass on the stage, and you'll end up with a lot of low-end feedback issues and vibration that nobody on stage wants to have. And that's why you have all those extra subs running in reverse. That's just one thing. But that, normally you don't have to worry about. If you think you're running short on the bass, if you think it doesn't sound right after you have for a while and you've gone somewhere different, hit that switch, see if you get a different feel out of it. Always important. But 9 times out of 10, you don't have to worry about it. Setting gain levels. This is important. I've probably talked about this before. You've probably heard this from other people. This is not like turning up the volume on your TV or on your home stereo or even on your earbuds. Running PA speakers is a very sensitive issue because you're basically applying more gain and more gain, more gain, and eventually gets amplified. And you want to know what the limit of your speakers are. There are lights in the back that runs the limits. I've said in the past, if you're running it for short periods of time, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just for fun and for, you know, showing off to your friends, you can have that light flickering. But if you're going to run it for 4 hours, if you're going to run your actual speaker for 4 hours, you don't want to see those. That's why I'll set it at 75%. It doesn't matter how big the speaker is. I want to have room. If 75% isn't enough for that space, you definitely want to be renting more speakers. And I say rent because, you know, 9 times out of 10, you're doing the same size show. Occasionally you get offered a bigger gig, more money. You say, yeah, I'm going to take it, but you need those extra drivers to do that. So that's gain is not volume. Gain is applying how much current am I going to apply to the actual system. So you definitely want to keep an eye on that, and you never want to really get past 75%. You say, well, that's not loud enough. Then you probably should get some bigger speakers, which means take your speakers. If you're always running into a volume problem, trade in your speakers. Head on down to Guitar Center. Take your speakers with you. Go on in there. Say, I need something that's twice as powerful as this. I have these speakers. They're awesome because I never run them past 75%. It's not how long you use them. It's how loud you use them. It's like tires. You don't want. And then you'll get a trade-in value on your old speakers, and you'll be able to buy in some bigger speakers. Personally, I always like to have 2 sets of speakers minimum anyways. So you definitely want to look at having more speakers and then start trading them. Trade-ins are great, by the way. It's a good way for you to get into fresh gear, bigger gear. No worries there. So that, again, me talking too much on that, but that's gain levels, okay? And now, okay, so we did that. The wheels, we talked about the wheels. I love wheels. And yeah, we've talked about dBs and all that kind of stuff. I'm just reading off my notes, making sure we talked about everything. So dBs are very important. So you hear, you know, a couple of numbers. 6 dB. 6 dB is how much things drop in volume. Point source speakers, speakers like this, that are, you know, single setup speakers. they'll drop off by 10. Now remember, when we're turning it up, 6 dB is technically going to mechanically double the sound, but we don't really hear that sound mechanically double in the compression. The overall sound doesn't appear to us until we've hit at least 10. So that tends to be the golden rule, is every 10 dBs that we've gone up, we've doubled what we can hear. The compression of air in the space, like how much actual air we're moving around, 6 dBs is the magic number. And those are in the real world, nothing in its way. Sorry, that's in the imaginary world where nothing's in its way. It's a cornfield, and nobody's playing in a cornfield. Well, unless you're doing a festival, right? And this is the main part. People ask about line arrays a lot. Line arrays, instead of losing 6 dB, they only lose 3 dB because different math applies. Because what they're doing is they're not trying to do this point source where it comes off like a sphere. An array, a line array, sounds straight down. It basically is adding all its energy vertically to create a sound that comes off instead of a ball, the sphere, it comes off, think of it as a can, a cylindrical device. So this way it's round. It's going to only go to the left and right. We're going to have very little going up and down. So it's by adding all that energy together going forward with all those actual speakers, and that's going to give us twice the distance, or sorry, half the dB loss every time we double it. Very impressive. That's why they use line arrays. Now again, all these things are only mathematically true. There's lots of things that just don't make sense, but in the mathematical world, that's why line arrays are being used. Now at the end of the day, convenience, yes. People ask me again, should I use line arrays for DJing and doing that? As soon as you have an audience right in front of you, it's tough because you don't have any way to carry the mid bass far away, because that's all happening on the floor. So it doesn't matter how high my actual array is on top, I run into bass issues on it. So if you need to put side fill in, if you need to generate even more sound around, or you need to push these closer to the side and fill in more volume down the side, they're great as side fill in a church or an elongated hall. If you have two line arrays a third of the way down on the left and right, the side fill's beautiful way to get sound. But that's where I would use that. Outside of that, bars, restaurants, because there's nobody in front of it. There's nobody in front. There's nobody in front of whatever show you're going to do. Line arrays are perfect. Portable line arrays. Easy, convenient, take them out. You can get a lot of power out of that stuff. DBs, speakers, point source, line array, awesome stuff. So we had that little conversation. There we go. We're doing okay here. And yeah, let's talk about different speakers again, just one more time. There's lots of good brands out there, reasonably priced. Now, most companies, and I'm not boasting one over another. You know, companies have to make money, and they're designed to be a certain size business and a certain size company, and they're going to go for that market. It is very hard to be in this market right here where Harbinger is. The reason why Harbinger can do it is Harbinger is owned by Guitar Center, which is a good thing. Because if you just take the customer aspect, me as a consumer going out and buying stuff, that's really good. Because two things happen. One, Guitar Center leaves Harbinger be its own company with its own R&D, research and development and all that. That's why you end up with such a great, this top is just amazing. You end up with such great performing product. And the thing that scares consumer the most is the price tag, because you go into the store and it's on sale. It's like, whoa, it's like right now, I think it's like, what, $200 or change off on the subwoofer right now. And you're worried because, you know, that's like the same price as some of the other, and you're going, I don't know if I want to go there, because that's like $300-400 off compared to the Electro Voice or the JBL or the Mackie. But listen to it. You're going to see a product that is pretty much dead on with product that costs $300-400 more. It's because they're going from manufacturing or owning the manufacturing of the brand and retailing the brand. There's no wholesaler in the middle. They don't have to sell that product once as the brand name, as the company, for X dollars, and make money to cover everything and make some profit, right? And then the retailer has to do it again. That's why you get these things on sale for such a great price, because we're taking off the retail portion. You get to buy it at basically whatever the wholesale markup is. So you take out all that extra money and you get to save it. Now, Guitar Center could easily have gone the other way and said, we'll put a lot more advertising out there, we'll put a lot more marketing out there, we'll do all that, and we're going to keep the price pretty close to what the other guys are doing, because the speaker sounds the same anyways. So what are we going to? We're going to be like $50 cheaper, good value, blah, blah, blah. Nope. They said, look, we're going to try and create a product here that you're going to be just as excited about buying, and then we're going to give it to you for a big savings. And they can do that. The brand's not going anywhere. It's still saying stay there. There's just great opportunity to buy them. And again, that's what's going on here. So yes, you do get power. But if you need more power, by all means, have a listen to them. They should all sound the same in the medium and larger size. But at the end of the day, they're just going to cost a lot more because they have a lot more power in them. You can always rent those if you have to. You can do that at Guitar Center. Now, I have an Alto here, which is also one of my favorite speakers. And it's also another one that's in a good price range. And that's because they put all their eggs into the basket of the TS series when it comes to subwoofers. They don't have a TS, a TS version 5 series where it's like, 3 times the price, whatever not. They don't do that. They don't even do a black series, which used to be their twice as good series. They just put everything into the TS3, TS4 lines. That's very impressive. And they do a really good job of dialing in a speaker that you're looking for. Again, when it comes to, if you're doing a band and you just want a really good subwoofer for the band, and you're looking for accuracy and quality, they do a really good job. And it's a 15-inch, which I really like. These guys don't have a 15-inch. 15s are hard to find. It gives you a good 3-way speaker setup. So that's what we've got here. And again, tons of power, tons of power. This is a 12-inch. For an absolutely reasonable bang-on price, I don't think you're going to hear a better one. Go out there, I dare you, go out there, listen to a whole bunch of 12s in that price range, plus minus $100 from whatever you see this for at Guitar Center. Tell me you're going to find a better subwoofer that sounds than this when it comes to that 12-inch class. There's some that are cheaper, but you're going to know the difference. There's some that cost more. You go, really? I guarantee you that's going to happen. And of course you're going to, if for twice the price, yes, you're going to get better stuff. But I mean, I prefer to have 2 of these subwoofers than one subwoofer that is like, ooh, look at that. Because that makes more sense. I'm looking for bass. I'm looking for live bass performance. That's the way to go. And while you're there, by the way, MLS 1000, their line arrays with their bass module at the bottom, pretty impressive. Again, other brands aren't bad. Some of them have a unique sound all in their own, and some are not as good as when they were originally. Like Bose is absolutely awesome, but they really want to diversify, and they really want to try and sell more and more products to more and more people. So they're trying to find more creative ways to bring their product to market. So you definitely don't want to just assume that any Bose system you buy is going to be awesome for you, because you're going to hear it differently than somebody else. Electro Voice, if you're buying into their speakers, quality and accuracy, my sales pitch on that is from the base model ZLX going up. The up models we know are going to sound awesome, but their ZLX series sounds as good as their up models, which doesn't always happen with all the brands out there. So there's lots of brands that do okay, and they're good for power and energy and reliability on their upper models, but their entry-level piece that gets people started and gets them into the business sometimes doesn't sound as good as the top ones. So that's what happens there. There's lots of new brands out there. There's LD Systems that's in North America. It's big in Europe, but we finally have that here, which is really nice. So if you're looking for something exciting, something different, that's a good brand. And also, what else we were... So again, Mackie is hit and miss, so you got to go listen to it. Usually it's a fan. Usually if somebody who buys Mackie is a fan of Mackie, and I love their mixers. I think they do great things with their mixers. I use their mixer here. I promote them all the time. They're good, bulletproof, reliable products that just work well. Their speakers, I never bought into their more expensive products, but that was just me. You have to draw the line somewhere, and I mean, I drew it there as I got into it, but not all the way. Is there anybody else I should? JBL, of course, JBL. Got to talk. You can't talk speakers without talking about JBL. JBL's got a huge variety. I'm going to stick with my original thoughts on JBL from years ago. Is if you're buying speakers that are going to be used by people who are not professionals, not yourself, not, you know, so you're buying them for a church and you're not the one going to be using it all the time, or you're buying them for a community center, or you're buying them for a school and there are people put in charge of the equipment that are learning how to use the equipment, JBL can't go wrong. It's a fail-safe product. It's got a bigger price tag on it because you're paying for that fail-safe technology built into the system. It's very robust, it's very smart, it's got lots of great features, but it's a premium product at a premium price with premium quality built behind it. So it's above and beyond what a lot of other companies do for trying to put as much safety into their products. Now you notice I didn't say sound. I'm saying safety. They build a very robust, safe system that I think is very good. Other companies do put safety in the system, but safety is very expensive. So, you know, where most companies run safety third, JBL pushes it on a lot of their products to be safety second, which causes a premium in price. I think they do it because it cuts down on warranty issues. It cuts down on people having problems. Because again, the brand is so recognized. If you don't know what brand to buy, you're going to see JBL and you're going to say, I'll buy that because I recognize that brand. Out of all the brands I've talked about, the only consumer-friendly house brand that we can think of is JBL. At some point in time, somebody's had something that's come from JBL, I guess, but that's why they're probably the way they are. And there you go. I do sell a ton, or used to sell a ton of Gemini product. And Gemini is very popular on Amazon and through some retailers, including Guitar Center. And if you're looking for stuff for fun and for free, they have an amazing line of product. Their current go-to for quality and performance, they're looking for a performance piece. They have a D-Class. I'm just looking at the model because it's over here. They have a D-Class power amp setup, and I really like these speakers, by the way. They're awesome. They're called the GD-L115, and that's an amazing speaker. So again, subwoofers, there's lots to choose from. Make sure you get enough of them. I know it's crazy, eh? It's like, oh my God. Make sure you get enough of them. When this video is done, if you want, go back to the beginning and listen to this conversation of DBs. I don't have a problem saying more subs is better subs. Quantity in subs is going to be your friend. I don't need to make it louder. When I say that, it's not about making it louder. I may end up with 4 subs running at 50% instead of 2 subs running at 75% because I can generate a lot more energy that way. And that is going to sound better. Anyways, I really hope this video helped you out today. I know it was a long video. Again, I will edit this video down later on and put all the tags at the bottom so all the talking points get broken up for you. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button. That's very important. That's very good. Hit the like button. I should say that during the video, but I don't. I just say it right at the end. So again, thank you very much for watching. We'll do this again and again. If I think any of these things need to be broken down more, I'll make a specific video just on that like I used to. We're going to get more into that, and we're going to definitely keep doing this. This is fun.